including 6 battleships, were sunk, and 90 more vessels were damaged by bombs or torpedoes. Almost 200 planes
16
on the ground, and over 3,500 US personnel killed.
7, 8, 9, right in there.
The Japanese lost only 29 aircraft.
15, 25. This guy's send it up again here.
Shortly after noon the next day,
9,
the United
10.
States declared war on the Japanese Empire.
I always go the wrong way with this fucking thing. 14, 16, 17.
With the destruction of the US Pacific Fleet, the way was open for the Japanese campaign of conquest. Garrisons throughout the region had already been secretly strengthened, and thousands of troops assembled in preparation for the onslaught. Hours after the raid on Pearl Harbor, Japanese planes attacked American air bases on
There's
Wake
50s
Island,
or 65%.
and Luzon in the Philippines. With complete air superiority, the Japanese launched their invasions. Forces in French Indochina, already held by the Japanese, rapidly advanced into Thailand and Burma. Troops from the island of Hainan landed in Malaya. The same day, an advanced raiding force invaded the Philippines and was soon followed by landings in strength. Over the next 3 weeks, Wake Island and Hong Kong fell to the Japanese. Borneo and Celeb were invaded, and Sumatra was occupied. On February the 19th, Japanese aircraft carriers launched a lightning raid on Port Darwin in northern Australia, sinking 12 merchant ships and eliminating Darwin as a valuable Allied base.
39%.
Early March saw the climax of the Japanese expansion, the inevitable occupation of Java. In a little over 3 months,
The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind.
By securing a steady supply of oil and widening the defensive perimeter of the homeland, Japan had achieved all her immediate war aims. Yet in spite of the breathtaking scale of the Japanese victories, there did remain one major threat to the security of her Pacific conquests. 3 aircraft carriers of the United States Pacific Fleet had escaped the carnage of Pearl Harbor, and within weeks they had each become the nucleus of a new task force. After minor raids on the Marshall and Gilbert Islands, 2 of the American carriers set sail on one of the most audacious missions of the Pacific War, to bomb Tokyo, the heart of the Japanese Empire. Early in April 1942, the aircraft carrier Hornet headed west from the US Naval Base at Alameda in California to rendezvous with sister ship Enterprise sailing from Pearl Harbor. Skillfully avoiding the protective chain of Japanese-held islands, Hornet and Enterprise penetrated to within 825 miles of the coast of Japan. At 08:24, on the 18th of April, 16 Mitchells took off from Hornet and struck a course for the Japanese capital. Flying low, they avoided Japan's fighter defenses, and 15 aircraft dropped their bombs on the city. All but one of the Mitchells escaped to safety in mainland China or Russia. In the wake of the attack that became known after its commander as the Doolittle Raid, there was consternation amongst Japanese military leaders. Although the raid had caused only minor material damage, it had struck an immense blow to Japan's national pride. The need to protect the emperor was at the very core of the armed forces' being, and an agony of shame swept through the high command. Japan's leaders quickly concluded that there was only one way in which the homeland and emperor could be adequately protected. The frontiers of the empire must be pushed even further into the Pacific.
"31,
In October 1941,
35,
Tojo had been appointed Prime Minister of Imperial Japan.
43,
As Army Chief of Staff,
50,
Tojo's greatest ambition was to see a successful conclusion to the Japanese
54,
invasion of China, and he was convinced that the
61,
only possible way of achieving this was to win a sharp
67.
victory over the Western powers. On his appointment as Prime Minister, General Tojo had kept his post as Chief of Staff and the job of War Minister. However, although an immensely powerful figure, Tojo did not have complete control of government policy. In a cabinet in which all the armed forces were represented, he could count only on the support of the army, and most decisions were ultimately a compromise between army and navy. Even before the Doolittle Raid, extending the perimeter of the empire into the Pacific had been a cherished ambition of an influential naval faction. After the raid, arguments between the army and navy evaporated. Because the proposed operation would demand little army participation, Tojo finally gave his support. Franklin Delano Roosevelt had been elected President of the United States in 1932. Deeply opposed to the general mood of isolationism, Roosevelt believed that America should play an active role on the world stage. Even before the outbreak of war in Europe, Roosevelt had warned of the dangers posed by Nazi Germany's ambitions. After the German conquest of the continent in 1940, Roosevelt, in spite of domestic opposition, increasingly